Hi everyone, a quick note before we dive in. You're about to watch my keynote talk for the Agritecture Exchange recorded in November 2020. If you find it stimulating, you're going to love the other 50 speakers that participated in the conference. And you can access all of the insights from these talks and panels totaling nearly 8 hours for half the price of the original conference pass. It's easy to register, just head over to the link in the description. Access expires on March 4th, 2021, so the sooner you register, the more time you'll have to watch the talks. Enjoy! Hello, and welcome to the Agritecture Exchange. My name is Henry Gordon-Smith. I'm the founder and CEO of Agritecture, and from me and my entire team, we'd like to thank you for joining us for this virtual event. The Agritecture Exchange is all about creating meaningful connections through virtual networking and empowering you to understand the future of food by covering really critical topics. So let's dive into what those topics are going to be. The first topic is controlled environment agriculture, growing in indoor farms and greenhouses, a topic getting a lot of interest in cities across the globe. Next, we're going to cover regenerative agriculture, restoring sequestration of carbon in the soil and giving back more to the earth than we take away in agriculture. And finally, we're going to be covering topics of biological innovations and alternative proteins. These are potentially game-changing aspects of the food system we're going to dive into. Now, across all of these three topics, we're also going to have kind of four theme areas. Those are entrepreneurship, tech adoption and farmer voices, cities and infrastructure, and the circular economy. Now, we really want to have you gain important insights from this event, and that's why we've combined these three topics that are typically discussed in individual echo chambers into one event, the Exchange. We believe it's important that we bring a variety of stakeholders together to discuss these topics in order to leapfrog the technologies and make the impact we need on the sustainable food system. But overall, we really hope that you're going to go and get the insights you need from the individuals participating in this event. Be sure to use our networking tools, including connecting with me. I'll be online throughout the entire event, and find those individuals that can help leapfrog your knowledge of the future of food. Thanks so much. Now we're going to get into my keynote talk. My keynote today is about a topic that's really close to my heart. It's really focused on social and ecological entrepreneurship. So today I'm going to speak about how a new age of entrepreneurs around the world are accelerating climate-smart agriculture. Now, the reason this topic is so exciting to me is because when you're thinking about business and entrepreneurship, the act of starting a new business, it's about looking around you and looking for gaps in the market, problems you can solve. And sure, you can choose a problem like building a better watch or designing a better wheel, or you can look for problems in society and the environment. What's exciting right now is that around the world, we have entrepreneurs who are looking for problems in the environment and society to change them. This is close to my heart because when I was looking for what job I wanted to do, I looked at urban agriculture, got passionate about that topic, and found the gap of available knowledge and diversity in the topic. That's why I started my blog, Agritecture, and that evolved into the business Agritecture Consulting. So today I'm going to dive into a little bit on the why, and then get into the how various players in the industry are accelerating entrepreneurship and climate-smart agriculture. So let's dive in. At Agritecture, our mission is to accelerate urban agriculture globally. So it's so important to us that we understand the needs of entrepreneurs that want to take the risk to start a CEA, controlled environment agriculture facility. So in 2019 and 2020, we did the largest surveys of CEA operators in the world. Let me show you what we found. The first insight we found was that 41% of respondents in 2019 had 0 years of agricultural experience before starting their CEA facility. In 2020, that number was 49%. So just think about that for a moment. These are entrepreneurs that are raising money, spending their time, and dedicating themselves to indoor greenhouses and vertical farms, high-risk endeavors. We need to think about how we can support them better. The next data point I want to share is from Agritexture Designer, which is our new software to plan greenhouses and vertical farms. In this, we asked them about their experience level. We had 1,500 respondents in this case, and 68% of them responded they were beginners or had light experience. Again, supporting the fact that we really need to think about how these entrepreneurs can gain the knowledge they need to be more successful in the operations stage. The main focus of our 2020 CEA census was COVID-19 and adaptation to it. One of the first questions we asked was how are they adapting their sales channels? What we found was that there was a 30% decline in sales to hotels and restaurants, which are typically high margin sales points for these smaller CEA farms. But we also found that there was a 43% increase in direct to consumer or CSA or produce box sales. I think that really shows that there's a willingness and capability to adapt from these farms that's interesting. Another data point we found was that when we wanted to understand the optimism that these farmers felt through the COVID-19 experience, was that they actually felt pretty excited about the future, that they were going to handle it and get through it. So 95% either fit in the category of excellent or good as far as their perception for the future during and after COVID-19, which is encouraging and exciting for all of us. Since we're talking about data, I wanted to share some other insights from Agritexture Designer as we continue to get responses and new users onto the platform. And these really relate to the entrepreneurship journey that we're seeing in CEA. The first one is that the average CapEx of users using our software, again, this is a business planning software where they can think about what kind of farm they want to build and input the budget that they have for that, was 1.5 million. The median was $568,000, and about 67% of them were on under 1 million as their CapEx. But 50% of the respondents were between 100K and 700K. Now, what's the takeaway from that? The takeaway is that entrepreneurs mostly are not thinking about building enormous giga farms, but they're thinking about developing their first pilots or their first urban farms that are going to serve local communities. And that gives us a very specific target about how we can help them, which we're going to get into a little bit further in this presentation. Other statistics that might be interesting for you is that 52% of the models built in Agritecture Designer had an ROI in less than 15 years. Well, thank goodness for that, because otherwise there'd be no business case. But the average payback was around 4.85 years. So there's actually a lot of viability when they input in the local market costs for a lot of the farms being designed on this software. And there are clear ways for entrepreneurs to make money and pay back through CEA. The first case study I want to talk about relates to our topic area of controlled environment agriculture. The main impact here that's being done to create pathways for entrepreneurs to develop more of these CEA farms is investing in education and training. And the case study I'm going to focus on is Singapore. Now, as we know, Singapore imports 90% of its food from around the world. So it has a really big business case to encourage the localization of agriculture. But one of the things I've been really impressed with lately are how it's improving that through education. There's a recent guide that they've developed, which is about how do you develop vertical farms in the city. And it actually covers all the things you need to know, from choosing the right site for a vertical farm or a greenhouse, to the steps you need to get permitting, to the places you can go to even recruit and develop your customer base. These are the kind of tools that cities need to create to generate those pathways and accelerate urban agriculture in the city. And I think we can all see that Singapore is doing a pretty good job. Now that there's zoning and applicable uses of different kinds of urban farms across the city, we're seeing investment, enthusiasm, and even new education programs like the Urban Ag Tech Masters program develop in Singapore. This is a really exciting case study. I think another thing they've done well is they've created some grant programs related to bringing various scientific leaders in CEA to the city. And I was excited to be a judge for that this year. This next case study focuses on the second topic of the Agritecture Exchange, which is regenerative agriculture. And this case study is about Danone and what they're doing to encourage regenerative agriculture. And I have a quote here from Maren Doles, who was one of the judges for the Thought for Food Summit that I got to co-host. And you could read the quote for yourself. But what I really like about what Danone is doing is that they're taking the silo of individual producers that are engaged in regenerative agriculture, and they're connecting them to the total value chain. So everything from production to consumables to distribution to the customer base, they're connecting all of these players to encourage a regenerative agricultural system. And they've got some incredible case studies to look at. So that's another reminder of what we can learn about those pathways. Sometimes pathways aren't about how do you get started, but they're actually about connecting those farms that could make a meaningful impact, like regenerative agriculture, to the greater agricultural system. So they have a place in the existing infrastructure and ecosystem of agriculture. Let's just talk a little bit briefly about what regenerative agriculture can do, just in case you need a reminder. So intensive agriculture is depleting our soil. In contrast, regenerative agriculture restores it. So it helps encourage the soil to do what it's best at, which is to sequester carbon. And so what Danone is doing is they're working directly with the farmers in its supply chain to co-create action plans and to lower the carbon footprint and strengthen water retention and biodiversity. Overall, their program is about increasing collaboration dramatically. Again, think about those pathways and how you can do that. It's not just about A to B, but it's really about crossing that whole value chain and supply chain that exists in agriculture. So definitely go check out Danone and what they're doing and learn more about how they're encouraging regenerative agriculture. Around the world, the need for alternative proteins to help provide a food supply to especially in developing countries, is a really pressing need. This next case study is about Thought for Food and how they're empowering entrepreneurs globally to solve that specific problem. Now, Thought for Food has a global challenge which creates pathways for entrepreneurs to develop their business ideas and pitch them and win prize money to develop those businesses into being more viable impacts on the food system. It's a really exciting event that focuses purely on Gen Z and empowering them. Now, think about this. Being an entrepreneur in New York City or Toronto is one thing, but being an entrepreneur in Indonesia or Kenya is another. What Thought for Food is doing is it's focusing on community building and various tools to empower those communities to make an impact through their unique ideas, that entrepreneurship drive to make a difference in the world. And so by connecting them through their digital labs, their annual event, and this year their virtual summit, they're able to connect these communities and empower them with cutting edge knowledge on how to develop great pitch decks, business plans, and what other technologies could empower them to develop better alternative protein solutions. Here's a quote from Christine Gould that I think really focuses on this. It's about building more inclusive business models that create a circular food supply chain and empower the smallholders. The entrepreneurs that are working on alternative proteins in the countries I mentioned are really focused on empowering those farmers that really don't have access to a lot of capital and opportunity. Those are some of the pathways that I've been talking about here today. Now, if you think about the millennial and Gen Z population for a moment, this actually really embraces a lot of what we're talking about in entrepreneurship and the impacts that I wanted to make as well. More than 30% of this generation plan to be completely meat-free by 2021, which is a great signal as well for entrepreneurship and pathways for alternative protein businesses. COVID as well has been a driver for this. So COVID has prompted a lot more individuals around the world to focus on more vegetable-based diets as opposed to meat. So that awareness is also a great opportunity for us and various players to get involved in creating more of those pathways. Also, transparency and traceability has been important, and in many ways, alternative protein solutions can provide that as well. So if you haven't yet, be sure to check out the Thought for Food website because there's so many examples of alternative protein startups that are making a real difference in communities across the globe that may inspire you to think about alternative proteins as well. For those of you who know me back from my blogging days in 2010 when I started the Agritecture blog, you've probably heard me talk about how I'm trying to build an industry, not a business. And that philosophy of capacity building and democratizing the best practices for controlled environment agriculture and urban agriculture overall is really how we're trying to create these pathways for the industry as well. So let's talk a little bit about Agritecture Designer and how we're doing that specifically. Agritecture Designer is the world's first online planning software for designing greenhouses and vertical farms. It allows you to estimate the CapEx, OpEx, yield, jobs, number of people fed, and payback period of any greenhouse or vertical farm in the world. It empowers entrepreneurs to do this all online in the comfort of their home and to do it at the lowest possible cost to understand what they're getting into. We do it in really two ways. The first part is learning, creating a pathway for them to overcome their challenges of gaps in their knowledge, to understand should they build a greenhouse or a vertical farm, what crops should they grow, what equipment and technology should they think about, and how do they focus on the customer, which is going to drive their sales. The second part of the software is our feasibility tool, which allows them to take what they learned in the learning stage and apply it to a specific business plan. In fact, they can develop multiple different ideas, greenhouses and vertical farms, and compare them to run scenarios so their confidence in their idea is even stronger. We're so proud and excited about this software because we really believe it's creating new pathways for entrepreneurs to get involved in CEA around the world at the lowest possible costs. So if you haven't checked it out yet, please check it out at design.agritecture.com. I want to thank you again so much for joining us at the Agritecture Exchange, our global virtual event focused on these three topics. We really want you to get involved and get the most out of it. So I have a little tip for you. When you're using our networking software, be sure to focus on one thing first. What can you give to the person you want to talk to? When you focus on giving when you're networking, you actually approach the conversation from a position of confidence. And you think about that individual and what they need, what you could offer. Maybe you can write a blog post about them. Maybe you can connect them with somebody. Maybe you have an idea about their business or a question that might help them think more critically about what they're doing. So one of the things that's made me an effective networker is focusing on giving first. So I want to encourage you to get out there and connect through our virtual platform and focus on giving when it comes to networking. You can also reach out to me. I'm going to be online throughout the whole event, and I'd love to hear from you what you're interested in and how we can help you go further. Thanks so much for joining us, and have a great event.